Hey folks, my name is Jürgen, aka Nerd and Proud of It, and Destiny has brought you to my channel today to enjoy more conversation between Edwin, the magic engineer, and myself. Edwin, good to continue the conversation.
Yeah, this is
I
fun.
wanted,
Enjoy this.
yeah, I think it has been a lot of fun so far, and I hope it comes across like fun because I definitely think. Yeah, maybe it's a bit arrogant to say, and I don't mean it that way, but I think we have a good click, and
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah. This is
yeah.
fun.
So
I'm enjoying talking to you, and this is fun.
that good to hear. I have exactly the same. I'm enjoying it immensely. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about content creating in general
Yeah,
because I've been watching your videos. Like I said, I enjoyed them. I enjoyed your strong opinion and your educated opinion in a lot of things, even when it comes to like old school decks. I think I really like the Time Wall deck, if I remember correctly. You
that's
were
fun.
showing off. That was really nice. I
Yeah,
got my
right.
first. Is it over there? That's
Oh
very
yeah,
nice. I got my first Time World Unlimited one for my Unlimited set after I saw that video because I was like, shit, I have to get one now. I would have gotten it sooner or later, anyways, but yeah, that was the moment when I decided I really need it.
hmm
But you, of course, have been doing kind of these, I call it TCG talks. You have been doing these things as well for quite a while. And I thought, like, hey, I got something innovative there. And then I found your videos. You were talking. I was like, shit, somebody did it before me. But you were talking, of course, to the guys, not only Dan, but to the Magic Historian and Rudy, of
yeah,
course, and
yep.
all the other guys. But um, how did that start for you? Did you just like to talk about
Sure.
Magic with some other people, and how did that go? And yeah, just
So
curious
yeah,
about
it,
that.
it's been kind of a crazy journey. I don't. So stop me if it starts to sound boring or bring another topic up, but I'll kind of bring you through it real quick. So
Yeah,
it
cool.
all basically kicked off, the YouTubing part specifically kicked off around 2016. I've played since 1996, and I've always had like power off and on. And in 2011, I sold my third set of Power 9, and I didn't have it for like a while. And then 2016, I started working for Hewlett Packard, moved to Texas, and a set went up online for, it was like 45 of each rare in beta, not the full set, but 45 of them. And but it had one of each common, one of each uncommon, and like the majority of them were signed, and they were all beta, and they're all in good condition. It was for Dave Adams Card World. So I talked to my wife, and they wanted 13 grand at the time. So I was like, this is, I've been dying to get back into this. I know this is a lot of money, but like this, I swear this is a good deal. We should do this. And for some crazy reason, she gave me the green light. So I did it, and I bought it, and I filmed the opening of them. And like, I still had the majority of my Magic cards, but like I had sold like the biggest, most expensive. So I had like half of my dual lands at the time, and I didn't have the power, and I was missing a lot of the other big cards because I'd sold
Yeah.
those off in 2011 as well. So I got this set, I opened it up, and there was just, it's actually on video. It's a crazy video. This box opening of these beta cards, that were like then 13 grand. Now it's worth like a couple hundred grand, right? So, anyways, I'm opening these cards up, and there's like four of the Moxes in beta, and there's a beta Time Twister, there's a Time Ball, there's like all these big cards. And so I talked about like, hey, I want to get back into the actual full Power 9 because I want to play again. So I came up with the idea like, okay, well, some of the ones that I can get in lower quality, like the Brain Geyser, the Mind Twist, whatever, I'll downgrade them and use that value to pick up the missing Power 9 pieces. And so in doing so, I got in contact with Daniel Chang from Vintage Magic. And so I was trying to wheel and deal with him to do swaps for these signed beta cards down to like Played Unlimited or something, so I could actually have Power 9 again. And we went back and forth talking on the phone. And so he started like recognizing that like I knew what I was talking about with this stuff because like I just had decades of experience with it. And he was like, he kept on telling me like, you should make videos and you should talk about this stuff and like, the games and the decks and the strategy and all that. And so I was like, oh, what the heck? So I started like filming videos, and I guess it was just, it's a right place, right time kind of thing. Because there was almost nobody else doing it, doing videos about old school cards for the old school format, and to also talking about the finance side. In like 2016, I was one of the first people doing it. And so the old school community found my videos, and it grew because, there was a hunger for that content, and I was one of the only ones doing it. And
Nice.
then I went to Vegas that year for the big event that they were having, the GP Vegas. And I met in person there for the first time Rudy and Open Boosters and some other people. And so Daniel Chang was introducing me to all these people. So I really, to a large extent, have him to thank for getting me started. And so, Daniel Chang and I ended up parting ways years later because there was some behavior that like I never had full awareness of, or like people warned me about some things, but then I saw some behavior things firsthand that was like unequivocal proof. And so at some point later, it was actually Rudy who jumped out first. It was like, I'm not connected with that guy anymore. And he exited that kind of group. And then I did, and then eventually Dan did, and some others. And so now we're all separate from Chang, but he was the one who started me on like YouTube, like telling me to go do it.
Okay.
But at that point, this is like years later, and like now I'm literally friends with Rudy and Open Boosters and Tavis King and like all these people. And I've got a content that people have found my channel, they found my content. And those guys have their own thing. Like Open Boosters thing is like opening all these old cards. Rudy's thing is talking about the finance side and like having his Patreon account and selling new cards. My thing, like in that friend group, like they all see me as the guy who actually plays and knows the game. And so whenever they have a question about either old school markets or about playing like in vintage, legacy, or old school, all of those guys literally come to me and they ask me questions. So like, it sounds arrogant to say, but like a big portion of the time when Rudy's making his videos and he's giving opinions on these old school markets, that's after hours of talking to me like about things, and I'm like filling him in and like educating him on the background of that stuff. And so there's a relationship there. Like everybody kind of has their own thing that they do. And I think it works because like, we're interested in similar things. We all have this like YouTube thing in common, and we all kind of bring something different to the table. And so my thing that I bring in, I'm the engineer guy. I'm very technically minded. I'm very analytical about things, and I'm deeply rooted in like the old school communities and like these old cards and stuff like that. So that's kind of like my add to that group. So then like, once that was there, we've of course just became good friends outside of it. So even though now I'm not really making content, like, I literally chat with like specifically like Rudy and Open Boosters and Saint and we have a chat thread like almost every day. I mean, we'll like say something back and forth, and then like for holidays and such, we'll go visit each other. Like, the guys just came down about a month ago, and we did like a Disney World VIP tour together, and we all just like brought our families in, and we all just cruised around and got into the rides and such together and spent the day. No filming, like nobody was taking videos or anything, but just,
of course not. That's not the moment for it.
Yeah, so we're just like, and so I'm really enjoying that because like for me specifically, I never did this to like make money on YouTube. I never did this to like grow a business. I did it because it was fun, and I figured making the content on YouTube would be fun, and I was doing it in my free time. But kind of my purpose was like connecting with people and kind of sharing passion. And so now I guess I'm kind of getting that itch scratched like outside of YouTube, which is probably one reason I'm like not making as many videos, because there's now a Florida Fireballs group that is run by Colin, and he's doing a great job. And we'll get like between 8 and 14 people at each meetup, and we'll do it once a month. And so we all show up and we bring our old school decks, and proxies are allowed, and we play. So I'm getting to play like way more often, like with people face to face. And then I'm getting that social aspect, through like the YouTube and like the communications and such. So I don't know, I guess maybe it's kind of selfish. I'm getting those like needs scratched, a little bit. And so like, that's where my focus is. I'm not really making a lot of video content right now.
Totally understandable. I mean, in the end, if that's what makes you happy at that moment, and I think the personal interaction is a very important thing when it comes to Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
I, for example, I told you I only play with friends or with groups like you just mentioned, like just like-minded people, and I don't really play tournaments or whatever anymore. That's not my thing, but I just want to sit down, take my deck, have a little bit of fun, drink a beer together, chat about the old days, and that's a great day for me.
Yeah.
And in the end, same as you, doing this here for fun on YouTube, and everything that gives you more excitement and like you said, scratches that itch a little better. Of course, totally makes sense. Do you have everything now, or do you still collect? Are you still out there looking for cards? Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I've told people over video I've sold like literally almost nothing, and that's like quite literally the case. So I'll show you a couple things here just to kind of prove that point.
Always
This
happy
is my
to see.
vintage deck,
Yeah.
and so it's the flavor deck. Like always, I don't know if you can see the cards, but like there's the Beta Emerald, and all the dual lands are unlimited. There's my Lotus, and there's my. So yeah, I mean, so there's like all my my main deck. And then this is just like another old school deck that has like workshops and everything inside of it. So that's just like a typical shops deck. And all my sorcery decks are like right here.
Awesome.
Pull those out and show those if you want. All the flesh and blood decks, the two main ones are here. And then all the binders are all right here. Ugh. I put all the most expensive cards in binders.
Nice.
And so I'll show you just a couple of them so you get a sense.
So what kind of binders? What kind of binders do you use?
Well, they don't have the 3-ring, so because like I don't want the cards to get bent or anything.
No, so, I have the same. But what brand is it? Oh, I see Arabian Nights. I see.
Yeah, I think they're Ultra Pro.
Oh, Ultra Pro. Okay, nice.
Yeah, so I mean, I keep all the old cards in binders. And
nice. So some interesting stuff there.
Blood, like here's all like the fables and stuff like that for flesh and blood. And so yeah, I've sold literally almost nothing because I didn't buy them as an investment. I am a player, and so I bought them to play. And so everything I do is organized around building decks and playing. Like even like the drawers over here that have the cards, I filtered my collection down so there's no more than 4 of any card. So I got rid of all the duplicates. And so now when you go through this, like this is blue section going here. I mean, you probably can't tell very much, but like there's a lot of cards in there with no more than 4, and they're all alphabetized and they're all organized. The entire purpose is so I can look at a deck and be like, that's what I would like to build. And I can go in and I can go and I can build the deck physically in like just a couple minutes. And I can know if I own the cards or I don't because they're all electronic. So everything I do is organized around playing, like actually building. So since that's the case, like if a card goes up or down in value, like I'm generally not selling. And when they go down in value, I'm accumulating. And when they go up in value, I'm like, oh, okay, good. You know, cards went up in value. So I've sold literally almost nothing, like this entire time.
But you still do buy cards, so
mostly not a lot of new cards. I buy old cards, and yes, old cards. Absolutely.
Yeah, nice. I think that's great to hear. I love that organizational part. For me, it's indeed. I try to organize in sets, and then I break down the sets to alphabetical order and normally color as well, and that works pretty well for me. I don't have a lot of stuff, especially not a lot of newer stuff, but some sets, old sets, I have tons of. Like if you think about Mirrodin or whatever, like that era, like the early 2000s, and I got a lot of revised stuff because that's when I started. But I like it that you're actually seeing yourself as a player.
So that's perfectly great what you're doing, and I would call that like a collector's.
Oh, I see myself. That's what I wanted to ask you. I personally see myself as a collector and then a player because I love to play. And I got my vintage deck as well. I got one, 4 Guardian Beasts, some workshops, mainly artifacts built around that, and then it has one newer card in there, the Wishclaw Talisman, because you don't have to give it away because the Guardian Beast protects it, so I can just search my deck as much as I want. So like 3 times with the Wishclaw Talisman, but that's more than enough, of course. Yeah. And it works for me, and it's fun, and it has like some cool versions of cards. I mean, I call it Alpha German, but it's of course the foreign black bordered edition. But that I like Soul Ring. I got I think I have I bought back then in 94, 95. I bought like tons of that stuff. So I got these cards in there, and just some old stuff, and just pimp out the deck a bit. So that's a nice, fun deck, but I rarely get to play it these days because, of course, it has the power 9 in there as well, and I'm a bit hesitant nowadays to actually play these cards and take them along to like an LGS or whatever. But I hear you. So I consider myself a collector first, and then definitely a player. And I had to sell some of the power stuff back in the day, especially when I moved to the Netherlands. I had to get a car to get my stuff in there and drive here. So I sold my my vintage deck with the power 9, mostly beta, for like $6,000 back then in like 2000, 2001. Bought a car, and then life happens. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But I still, that's how it goes. And of course I'm sad about it. I wouldn't have done it if I wouldn't have needed to. But I still got most. I'm considering myself a collector in the sense of, that's a bit my niche actually when it comes to YouTube, in the sense of I collect like still nowadays, and that's kind of cool because I'm trying to. I think that's nice because almost nobody does it, like set collecting, and I'm trying to finish my unlimited set, and I'm down to like.
Takeaway is like a person has to have some self-reflection to kind of like look in themselves and be like, what is important to me here? And if collecting is it, then the way that you do it gets organized around maximizing what you want. So what you do is perfect for being a collector. When I wanted to be a player, then the question was like, after I've got, my 4th Dark Ritual, do I need a 5th? Well, no, I don't. Okay, well, if I have 3 extra beta Dark Rituals, I can trade those into cards that I don't own that I want to have a copy of. So I can sell 3 beta Dark Rituals and go get another Legend Sylvan Library or something like that.
Nice.
So like, since like I had already accepted to myself, the focus was being able, I wanted to have the original print old school cards. And if I had extras of certain other cards and I was willing to let go of them, then I could suddenly go get, that Mox or that thing that I wanted without having to like lose the ability to play that. And so like the whole architecture of like what I'm doing was first around figuring out what it is I wanted and what did I like, and then like, how do I maximize this? And that's when I realized like, I've just got to get efficient. I've got to enter the whole thing into a computer, and I need to be able to do spreadsheets. And if I know that I've got 6 of a certain fetch land or something, and I'm looking and the price pops up, I'm like, I can sell 2 of those, and I can move that cash over, and I can buy this card that I need, right? And so that's kind of like that was decades ago that I started that kind of process, but then it got more formal and electronic when the tools got better. And so then eventually when the Magic Engineer channel started in 2016, I was already like well down that road. Like I didn't start organizing at that point. Like I had already spent like a long time figuring out exactly what I've got and organizing and kind of refining the process. And that's what made the video content so easy, because it was like, I'm just talking about the thing that I literally spent hundreds of hours figuring out how to optimize, taking an analytical perspective and being like, how do I do this, and putting design into it. So like when I did the videos, it was just talking about it, like I was describing it, how I did it effectively.
I think that's awesome. I love it. Do you have a card or something in your collection that's really special to you?
Oh gosh, yeah.
What is it? I see like a print sheet back there, but
this is one of the ones that's the most important to me.
Jester's Cap?
Jester's Cap. Yeah. So it was my cousins that got me into Magic. And so when they first introduced me to it, Ice Age had just come out. And we were meeting up at the family cabin. And, they were like, because they knew what my kind of tendencies and my passions were. And they were like, Eddie, you got to see this thing. I got to show you this cool game. And so they brought out all these cards and they spread them out all out over bed, and they were talking about them. And they were really excited. And my cousin Alex had cracked a Jester's Cap out of an Ice Age pack. And at the time, this was like the most expensive card in the set. And so like he got all excited because everyone in the shop got all excited. And so he told me with all this excitement in his voice. And so like I was seeing, what this was doing to them, like, their excitement in it. And so I started buying cards. And so like Ice Age had just come out, and then like I got into it, and then very shortly after Alliances came out. And so I bought a bunch of Alliances. And so my cousins were laughing because like they introduced me to this game, and then they saw me again like 4 months later, and I had like a tier 1 vintage deck, and I was like time twisting and doing all this crazy stuff. And they're like, what the hell, man? We just showed you this thing.
What's going on?
So the Jester's cap made a huge impression on me. And so I eventually traded it off of my cousin Alex. And so like this is like a big card because it really kind of like kicked me off. And the other card that I'm really passionate about is probably Time Twister, because it's my absolute favorite card in the whole game of Magic because of like what it does. Because I like it because it's nostalgic. I like it because it's powerful. I like it because it's unique. And I also like it because like when you play a Time Twister, oftentimes you're giving all of your opponents as well a chance to kind of reset in the game. And I mean, I like being competitive, but like I don't need to win for my personality. And if like a game is being dominated, I'm leading and I draw a Time Twister, if it's a fun game and not a tournament, half the time I'll cast the twist because I'm like, let's have some fun. Let's switch it up a little bit, and I'll do a Time Twister and pass the turn and kind of breathe new life into it. Because like I know what it's like when you're on the other side of the table. You have all these things you wanted to do. You set up all your board state, but then it's like the other person's pulling ahead, and your chance of winning diminishes. And now if they give you a fresh hand and you have a chance to go, it's like suddenly it's fun again, right? And that's my goal. Like I'm not playing to win. I'm playing most of the time for the passion and the enjoyment and the fun. Right. You know, if you want, I could tell you a story that actually really exemplifies this. Like this all really happened. When I lived in Oregon, I would go to rainy day games. It was this shop in Hillsboro area, just outside of Portland, Oregon. And for a period of time, they actually had a vintage tournament. And back then, people like, rarely had the big vintage cards. So when they said vintage, it basically, they did it for the purpose of letting people come in and just play with no matter what they had. And so you just saw jank all over the place. And the kids that came in, they're having a good time with what they had. So I showed up one time because I saw they had a vintage. I showed up with a tier 1 Control Slaver deck. And like, there was just like, it was like walking around a schoolyard slapping people. Like, just like they had no prayer. And so I did it for a few weeks, and they were getting really frustrated because like they knew they clearly had no chance to win. And I was looking at it like, look, I'm not trying. I don't care if I win the tournament or not. I just never get to play these cards because I'm working as an engineer over at Intel in Hillsboro, and I'm just busy all day long, and I never get to play these cards. And I don't want this format to not be fun. So I changed it up, and what I started doing is I would play the same deck, but then right at the last moment, I would concede. And so I would give them the win. We'd play game 2, and I would concede game 2. So they would walk away with a 2-match win, and I would get last place at the tournament because I conceded every single match. But I was mud stomping these guys every single time. And then when somebody like out of the blue randomly would show up, and they would actually have a tier 1 vintage deck, I would not concede to that guy. And I would, of course. I don't think I ever lost to those guys, but the thing is that it did is they got mud stomped by the guy that got last place. So it brought them down in the score so much when this random person would show up with this really powerful deck, and if they happened to play me, they did not win the tournament. And so the guys at the tournament that did not have the big cards, instead of it being irritating to them, they actually started being really happy about it. And it was kind of seen as like, Edwin's our guy. And so one of the guys specifically, he started like trying to play a deck against me because he was like, I don't care that you're going to concede. I want to beat you. And so he started like focusing his deck on trying to beat me. And we even had times where we'd be going back and forth. I'd be like, I concede. You'd be like, no, I concede. Like, no, I concede. And so it would be very joking. And one moment he actually gave me this. This is another special card for me. This is a foil Gifts Ungiven because it was one of my favorite cards in the Control Slaver build. And so he actually had a foil gifts, and he gave it to me, which was like a $20 card or something at the time, because he was just wanting to show his appreciation and respect for somebody that had the cards, could walk away with the win, but it wasn't about that. It was wanting it to be fun. And so like that difference of mental state, it changed the whole dynamic. And those vintage tournaments actually got bigger and bigger because it was allowed to remain a fun thing because somebody who actually kind of had the ability to defend it from these other tier 1 players was in there doing something like that. So it actually kind of grew the format. And instead of it being like frustrating and everybody quitting because they just got beat, it actually ended up being a cool thing. And like, I love that. Like that is 100% my style and my personality. And I don't remember the exact year. This was maybe something like 2000. Well, it definitely after Kamigawa came out. So whatever Kamigawa was out, maybe add like a year to that, and that was the time when this all happened.
I think it was 2004 that Kamigawa came out, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't, not quite sure, but I think 2004, 2005, something like that.
I think that tracks. I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. You were like their Keldon warlord.
Yeah, that's kind of how they saw me, and I like being in that position because I was looking at it like I get to play my favorite cards. They're actually excited to play against me. I'm getting to see all my strategies unfold, but then I'm not like pissing them off, like winning the tournament every time. It's like, this is a huge win, and this is exactly what I wanted.
Sounds exactly right. I love it, and I think especially the fact that you help them not lose against the other guy that randomly comes in with a T1 deck and just try to beat them up. Like, hey, if you hopefully Edwin's there and he's playing against him, because then we can still snatch the win, which is awesome.
There was a few sweet moments of that. I wish I had those on video.
Yeah, hey, sometimes it's okay to just have the memory. That's cool as well. These are exactly the stories I love, and that's exactly why I love to talking to people like you on YouTube here, just to capture those stories. I think that's awesome.
I totally get what you're saying. Like when you start doing what you're doing, like you're doing the YouTubing, it just suddenly just connects you with people. And like that's like the greatest thing. Honestly, when I look back at all the YouTubing and I say like, what was the best part of doing Magic YouTubing? Like, that's it. That's the connection to people.
Exactly. Yeah, for me, it's the connection to people like you, and mainly as well to artists whose art I'm very much into the Magic the Gathering art. I love it, and to talk to those people, I have cards in my binder for 30 years, and I was back in the day thinking about what did they mean, and then actually ask them about it, and they are cool about it, and they tell stories about it, and I love that. I had that poster in my room. I think they gave that out like in '94 for LGSs, painted by Anson Maddox and Mark Tedin, and it's I think it's called Infinity or something, and I was able to talk to Anson about it and ask him about the different parts, and he actually sent me like a sketch, like, okay, this I painted, this Mark Tedin painted, like different colors on the painting where the respective art comes from whom, and then he was talking. I was like, hey, is this a Minotaur? Yeah, sure, that's a Minotaur. I don't know, Necromancer. I was like, shit, okay, I didn't know that. So and 30 years later, I love that kind of stuff. That's just awesome. That's why we do this here. I think
Charles Klein, who also gets a lot of repaintings done from artists. He's in Manhattan, New York area, and he's been collecting print sheets for a while, but he also got into Magic original art. He's bought some original art pieces from Alpha Set and others, and he's also like contacted artists and had them like do repaints of like other paintings. And it's just the coolest stuff.
I have one of those in the works. I'm not revealing what it is. I can reveal it to you after we stopped recording. But that's my first one. I normally go for a little sketch or a nice painting on artist proofs. That's what I really like. I have some prints as well, but I really like just original stuff. For example, just to give you an example, what I love about this, I had a great talk to Drew Tucker at the Spiel in Essen last October, which is a big show. Arthurian Legends released there from Sorcery, and Drew was there, and we had a great talk. And then in the evening, the Eric's Curiosa guys invited us over. There are just 2 European content creators, or maybe 3, 4 that do sorcery stuff, and they invited us over, and I got to introduce Drew to some German schnapps over in Germany, and we had an awesome evening. And then he actually was at the Uthen Cup in the Netherlands, which is a big old school thing. They invited him, and he signed cards there, and it's like 1.5 hours for me from Utrecht here. So that was very easy. And I drove there, and we had another great afternoon. And then we even met the day after at Schiphol Airport, and it was awesome. And I recently asked him, like, hey, we're doing this tournament in Germany. Do you maybe have a sketch? Because I want to make a participation card. And I put in my own money for that shit. That's all cool. And yeah, just to give the people a card. And he actually, I still have it here. He actually was like, right away, like, sure, Jürgen, I'm gonna send you a sketch. And he sent me a sketch, and I made a participation card for the sorcery artist. But these kind of things never would happen if you do not do these kind of things. And he actually, I'm gonna show it to you.
Oh, look at that.
Maybe you can see it. Hopefully the camera focuses.
Yes.
Yes.
There it is. Just focus. The drunken scoundrels. Oh my
yes,
god.
Yes, that's a piece of art he just drew, and
that's himself on the left, right?
And that's himself on the left, and me on the right. We are actually drinking schnapps and coffee there. And and he sent me this, and I made I just created the card Drunken Scoundrels with a nice flavor text. I gave us charge because we were riled up, of course, of the schnapps. And made if I ever meet you, I'm gonna bring you one of those. I made a couple.
Thank you.
People loved it. People thought it was really funny. I got my own trading card game with me on it, with original art by Drew Tucker. I mean, that's what I do this shit for. It's awesome. It's so lovely, and everybody's so nice, and everybody's so kind, and that's what I really like, especially with the old school community. But yeah, that's exactly what we're doing this for, I guess.
Yeah. Speaking of sorcery, maybe we should switch to the next video and start talking about that.
I wanted to suggest that. Let's wrap up the magic stuff for now. As always, I'm gonna say stay healthy, stay frosty, and we'll be back with some sorcery. See you then. Thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.